Hey folks, it's Ben. This is going to be a cool video. I'm going to like this one a lot anyway for me. Here we have my MTD5 and there are a couple of videos on it. I'll link to at least one of them here, probably the coil change. On this motor we actually ended up changing the coil out. We took out the points and just put a spark coil and it ran great. I've owned it for about 5 or 6 years. I paid money for it. Holy crap. $85 to be honest with you. It's the second motor on this tiller. The prior owners put this motor on it, gave me the case for the other motor so I knew the information on it, not that it really matters. But what was happening was this spring I was tilling and then it's like someone threw a bunch of bolts in there and it just started clanking. The power fell right off. So I shut it right down and knew that, you know, we're not in a good place anymore. Unfortunately, in order to get the next tiller running, which was the Farm Crest, which I'll go ahead and link here too. I think I've got at least a video on it. I had to take the carburetor off this one and put it on the Farm Crest. So I can't even fire it up to do anything. It still has compression. Ooh. But oh yeah, hear that click? Yeah. Something's not right inside anymore. So we'll do an exploratory video on that. I've got a couple motors we need to tear down, but that's more of a fall thing when it's cold outside. Right now I've got some tilling to do. This is one of the better tillers, although honestly my dump pick tiller is fantastic. This one's really good at cutting sod. So, and we're putting well, I'll be honest with you, that Subaru motor is probably a little lighter than this Briggs flathead, but either way. We're gonna take this motor off, clean up what we can, and we're gonna put the Subaru motor on there. Now that's a 5.7 horsepower. It even says 6.0 on the side, but it was sold as a 5.7. It'll have a little bit more power. And ooh, maybe it'll fit, maybe it won't. We'll see. Looks like it's got a knockout for a fuel tank there. But we'll mount that up there, get the pulley swapped over, and then see if we can get this tiller back in service using that Subaru motor. As Fergus walks by. Nope, you're just gonna say hi and yawn at me? Cool. Alrighty, so let's get going. I'm gonna take I've never actually done anything to this tiller itself. We're gonna take the belt covering off, and then we're gonna take the motor off because we got to pull that pulley. Hopefully that's going to come off and I don't have to delay the video to go buy a new one. The outside cover must have more than I see here, but I see 7/16 here and here, and there's got to be something else, but I can't see it right now. So we'll just undo those two and see where we get. My tripod, sometimes I just freehold. I think for this video we're just going to freehold the camera. 2 bolts are out. Honestly, it looks fairly loose. There's something. I wonder if it's got like a hook or a connection. Looks like there's something down there. Another bolt underneath maybe. Yep, right there. It's hard to see because it's grease covered. Let's pop that guy off. Then I bet our little pop right off. So the bottom bolt is out, which was really greasy. And that was out easy. What the hell we got going on in here? This is not coming out fun. But, so there's 2 belts in here. Okay. It's not like my other one, and that wheel is all old, and that's a thing. Okay, so we got some weird beltage going on here. Let me pry this cover off, because it's being a dink, and we'll take a look and see what's happening. So here's the case, and you can see that there's rivets there, and that's actually a stiffener and a protection. Well, protection against what? This. So we have the motor and we have a pulley here that powers this intermittent pulley, I guess. And this is connected to the connection of the machine somehow. So I have my lever here. So when I'm operating it, I typically have it like, you pull it this way and it's in neutral, and you can see that this belt is just idle, so the motor spins and nothing else does. Then I kick it over and push it forward, and it only goes into slot 2. It's the only slot it goes into. Sometimes I can push it to 3, not here. And what that does is it pushes and pulls, gets that belt connected to this belt, and away you go. So more belts than I anticipated. And part 2 of the belt story is that the motor belt looks pretty fried. That's a pretty nasty crack. So we're gonna have to get a new one of these. There's the keyway, and this is bigger. It must have reverse, is what I'm thinking. So if I put it up to neutral, if I yank on it more, it doesn't want to, but I see. You yank it in reverse hard, it swings this one up to this pulley, and it reverse spins it. Yeah, it would spin it the wrong way, making it reverse. So it has a power reverse. That's cool. I did not know that. I know it had multiple speeds, but they've never worked. I've only had the one speed, and the one speed's been fine, and then you tweak the motor speed as to what you want to do with it. But it's a little bit more complicated than that. So that's pretty cool. But really, see if we've got a corresponding mounting place on our Subaru for that bolt, because it seems fairly important. And the key point is that this drives the tiller, and this is the motor, and they're not aligned. Like, we've got that one belt jump over. So we can't even just swap in an easy clutch system and have it be one speed. Looks like we've got some, and then we've got some leverage here where this slides up and back and forth, and that slides this. And I'm not sure how it shifts gears. Maybe it's a slip clutch. Doesn't seem like there's any clutch here. Anyway, that's neat. But I think we can go ahead now and just undo the motor mounts, which there should be 4. 1, 2, they're 1/2-inch bolts, and 3 and 4 in the back. And we'll get the motor off this thing, and we'll look at that a little further. Bolts are extracted. There's only 4, but honestly, they're fairly long. I dropped the nut to 1, and it didn't have a washer, so obviously the person who swapped the engines out lost one on me anyway. And the tricky one, which I completely forgot about even though we talked about it earlier, was this one here, which we're not going to be able to replace on the Subaru. There's no hole for it, so we'll see. That might be needed. Well, we might have to come up with something to help secure that. But for now, well, let's get this puppy out of here. So the belt, which is going to require some adjusting to remove because it's closed there, but not here. Well, this will be easy. Easy peasy. Whoops. Oh, wow, look at that. It sits on a mount. But, yeah, the throttle shouldn't even be connected. But it is, so still got to do that. Just should be Phillips holding that, or a flathead holding that off, and then we can pull the motor out. A flathead to the governor, and we got the throttle just disconnected, that yanked out. Because these units are actually controlled on the bottom, and then rods come up and mess with stuff up top. So now we can probably pull this thing off. And like I said, it's on a platform, which is neat. That. Then we have the motor here, which we'll bring over here and set down. Future video for that, because I'm still working on that one. Neat. And we have another hole, so that's cool. And like I said, I'm missing a nut because I dropped it. And I don't know if it hit the ground or if it's around, but it's just 1/2 inch anyway. Neat. It has this, which gets that motor up a little more. But this is all really dirty. That's why these nuts are so long, is they got to go through that plate in addition to the bottom. And this, oh, that's going to be sweet and clean. We can take this whole top off. And let me get all my stuff off, and we can pull that out and clean it. Nice. So this, and that's the oil drain hole. Ah, look at that. See, so when I have those motor mounts, it must be because they're missing the shield. Good to know. Gotta clean that up. You know, if I gave a poop, that'd be perfect for painting. That would really go a long way on this girl. But no, it's a working machine. So with that off, have I gained anything in terms of shifting? Kinda. I don't know what that does, because like now the belt is, it's weird. Like I get that part and that spring tension. We're way off now too. So the motor must have been pulling this in or something. So I'm not sure where the gear ratios come in. Like I said, it's a 5-speed, but 1, 2, 3, 4 in reverse, that's 5, I guess. Still don't know how that works. That's all right. let's clean the steel plate up. I got some brake clean for that. Put it back down there. Test fit the Subaru. Well, wait, actually, way ahead of myself on that one. I had to just edit that out. We gotta get that pulley off the motor because that's gotta go on the Subaru first before we really do anything. Because that's not your typical, I can buy it at the Home Depot or whatever farm store pulley. I've gotta get that off in one piece. I ended up doing stuff out of order anyway because I said I'd do it. So we've got some, we cleaned the base there. Just a little quick shot of some brake clean. And look how that fits just like so. It's even got a bent over piece that kind of clips in there. And it's got enough holes in the base here for I think any motor you want to put there. Although I found that the Briggs and Stratton bolting pattern fits everything. So that's neat and that's cool. And then I also cleaned up our little spacer plate, and I'm hoping it's square because I don't know which way is forward, but it shouldn't matter. And that just fits over there. So we've got that good. It's not a show tiller, so as long as the new surfaces are kind of clean while we've got them open, and that's like that. Not unbolting that yet. Now we'll play with the pulley. I'm getting a lot better with these now that I've done so many. We'll just go ahead and hopefully the keyway's cool. We're gonna put some screw loose, which is honestly lately been a miracle worker in terms of busting two metal surfaces apart. Bolts, screws, stuff like that. I'm under the assumption that's just a starter. I'm under the assumption that this is the second motor, but it could be the third or fourth because I think the first motor dated to like 64. Which makes that fairly old, way older than me. But that looks more like maybe a late 60s, early 70s tiller. So I'm wondering if this is not maybe the third motor that was on it or the fourth, and that will end up being the fifth or something. Who knows? Maybe this tiller is just awful to motors. But anyway, the point is that hopefully this isn't on there forever. In fact, it should have been only on there for the time I've owned it because they said they just swapped the motor before I bought it. So hopefully we can put the old puller on this one and it'll pop right off. Now, I actually don't care about reverse because I never knew it had it. So I'm not gonna worry about that. So I'm wondering if I can just clamp on this, which seems pretty beefy. It's actually bolted on. I'm hoping I can bolt onto that with my puller and just go boop and she'll pop right out. Let's find out. I'm gonna tripod this one for you. All right, I got a 2-arm puller on the rubber reverse belt. Or pulley, and not this one. It's just wide enough, hopefully. We'll see how it goes. Making weird sounds as I pull on it. It's either bending the wheel or nope, it's sliding on the shaft. Nice. No big fight with this girl. I'm gonna say it's the screw loose. To be honest with you, it's really good stuff. Bam. Perfect. And there's the key, which I'll probably keep, but I like to keep them specific to the motor. All right, I guess we'll bring the Subaru up here and crank this thing on. Guess I should have measured how far the pulley was on the shaft, but we'll get there when we get there. Here we are with the Subaru. It does have its own key, which is super tight. We've got the key on top. Boy, this thing has got like 0 tolerance, which is great, except, you know. So there's our keyway. And here's our pulley, which, yeah, it'll be close. Close enough anyway, hopefully. Not even gonna, yeah, perfect. Let's give that a little bit love into it. Let's use the old rubber mallet. It's not, it's probably gonna have not as fun time too. Let's go ahead, and there's already lubricant on the shaft here, but there's nothing on the keyway. So a little dip of grease or anti-seize or something probably wouldn't hurt a guy's feelings. Probably should anti-seize the whole thing, right? Oh yeah, look at that. But I don't know what's gonna keep it on there. So that's perfect. We're gonna leave it there. That was way too easy. My biggest issue, of course, is going to be fit. Looks like our exhaust is going to be spraying right on the belt system. It actually needs to come out of here, which is easy. Let's move her back to where she needs to be. And this little patio block is just a pain. We're definitely not going to hook up with anything there. We're on the right side of the reverse. This is just going to be a hodgepodge of finding holes. That's okay. Exhaust pours right over there, but the carburetor's on the nice clean side. And yeah, it really wants to be buddies, but there's zero metal there to bolt to. There's in fact very little metal to bolt to anywhere there. And our little oil fill in the back is going to be completely useless. This looks like it's moved on me, to be honest with you. But in theory, you can clutch it. And it should be in neutral at this point, so we'll have to move it back. But I think for purposes of this experiment, let's just go ahead and bolt it in and see how we do. So, messing with these guys to get the right hole down the hole. That's gonna be fun. Oh, there's already a bolt. What's that? Oh, that's the original bolt from my other mount. Cool. Let's drop them in there, see if it fits. So we have one there. Once you get one, you mostly have them all, right? There's that one up to that. And then our little booster plate here, which is there. Which then comes up to our motor, which is there. Ta-da! Let's put the kitty corner one in and then make sure our fit's approximately where it needs to be. There's a lot of sag on that belt, which might be good. We will need to undo all this to get that belt off to get a new one, but deal with that later. Well, I can already see an issue with this setup, and it's not my fault, which is great, but this totally needs to be on the other side of that. Like this goes on the other side and limits its travel and gives it some support. Because this pulley is out of place, like it's kicked out some. So my pulley lineup isn't great. I didn't notice it, putting it together, but yeah, it's not right. This needs to be back there. So we might need to, and that's bolted to the tiller with 3 bolts there. We might actually have to undo those and recorrect that, because that's kicking a little bit out of alignment, which isn't helping anybody. That belt's also crap, but I mean, this is good enough to test it on. But I think that's what we're gonna do next actually, is undo this plate with those 3 bolts and put that in the correct spot. I wonder if it at one time even indicated a gear or something. But that's wrong, which is why that's wrong. So let's fix that and make it all better. So that's better. This controls a lot. Obviously it's meant to slide in that slot like so, and just wasn't assembled that way. So that's fantastic. Or I did it, no, I couldn't have done it differently, so cool for me. But if you look at it, our shaft still is bent. So we're gonna go ahead and mess things up. We're in Motorland, right? Like it bolts up, looks like it lines up enough, it'll run, but this pulley it's still out. So this has a bent over piece. So we're gonna bend it back, take this nut out, and let's just see what that pin looks like. The pulley's free spinning, but it might need to be cleaned and lubricated, but a little Lucas or something in there. But let's go ahead and dance with the devil. Kick that pin out, or kick that retainer, and let's see what it looks like. Broke that free, broke it free with a wrench. There's the nut. There's the pulley retainer, which is just a little, looks like we could have gotten that belt off anyway. It does have a number on it. It's MTD 0157 A30. There's enough info on there. So this has got this is the bearing nut, no doubt. I'm gonna pull this out and all the needles are gonna run everywhere, aren't they? Please don't do that to me. Is it one piece or two? It says no. I'm not going anywhere. And what's holding you on? Nothing that I can see except my lack of two hands to pull on it. Okay, I'm gonna give it a little love here with both hands and see if I can get it off. So this is the ongoing saga of this tiller. So we pull this off. It doesn't actually have any gears. Good. But it just has a clutch that's really had been frozen. So you can see that that's, and I kind of figured it was, but it's a clutch, right? So depending on how hard it's pulled against the motor is how far the belt goes down, which is how much smaller or faster this thing goes. So it's kind of a, it looks like there may have been or should have been or something, a spring in there to kind of control the squeezing of that. Is it on this side? Yeah, so that's your speed. So it is technically a 1-speed. And then this pin, clearly, I'm holding you straight on, is not right. And it's broken in the past and they've really done a poor job welding it. So I'm gonna go ahead and try to break it. This is a bearing surface. Well, it's not bearing surface. The bearing itself is actually fine, but there's 2 of them. And we'll lubricate those as best we can, I guess. But we'll see if we can on that a little bit. And like that looks like it's been welded too. So I don't know what they were doing here. I'm hoping to just kind of bend this plate some. That's really thick. Yeah. We'll just, I'm gonna work it, come right on back. I'll have it fixed. Well, all right, so it was welded wrong, and because it's a sliding plate mechanism, you can't even shim it right. So I did pound on it a bunch to get it to come around, and that's about as good as it gets. Looks bad now because the thing's off, but what we did achieve is that this is actually a clutch, and it was frozen, so that's freed up now. And the goal is, and it's all powered by this big spring here, because like, how does this work, right? Well, it's, as you pull it into gear, you tighten this belt, and the more you tighten the belt, the harder it's smaller it makes this pulley, and the bigger it makes this pulley, so it actually goes faster. So depending on how hard you pull on this shaft is exactly how crazy it gets. So the more you push forward, the harder the drive belt presses against this, which pushes this belt out, which causes it to spin faster. So that's your clutch mechanism. Of course, it's all skewed to the side because this pin was broken and welded in poorly, whatever. But we'll see what we can tweak with the motor, because that means this pulley's out a little bit. But the thing about pulleys is they can be out a little bit and still be okay. That's the defining of them. So if we can just make it so that this one isn't gross, the clutch will eat the balance, which is why it's probably frozen. So let's go put it all together and hope for the best. We don't need to put that back on to run it. We just need to get the motor on, and that's that. Because the Subaru doesn't need, it's got its own throttle and stuff, so we don't even need to hook up cables or anything. It should just go. The motor is now mounted. It bolted up by, like I said, same hole pattern as the Briggs. The belt alignment is what it is. There's nothing we can really do about that. I tweaked the motor as best I could to kind of fit it, but you can tell we're still off a bit. But maybe it's always been that way. The clutch works, so we'll see how that goes. We'll be able to get our Subaru running for sure, right? Because the belt is loose there. And we won't be cranking on it too bad. And then when we shift it out, it puts tension on the belt. And it might be, we'll see how that goes. I'm not convinced it's great. And same here. And then yeah, the farther you pull on it, the more that clutch digs in, and that's how she goes. So if you, in first gear, I'm guessing it would slip because it just wasn't pushed in very hard. And yeah, you could in theory, crank on that and get it reverse, but yeah, whatever. So put it neutral, which means it should spin, and we'll go from there. I'm gonna pull it outside out front and tripod you, and we'll see how it goes. So now I've got it out here in the sun where it's burny. I guess the only concern I have is that this pulley that's on the motor has no set screw. Like, it's sitting there. My guess is that large shield with all that, you know, it had that big steel plating here, was actually to keep the pulley on. And it actually did, or could have, floated on this shaft. That's all I can think of, because with clutches, they're going to move. And in theory, this pulley could kind of automatically align itself to some degree if it wasn't pinned down to one spot. That being said, without the guard on, she could fly off and kill a kitty or something like that. So that's not cool. That's to look out for. Other than that, I'm excited. Let's get this thing fired up. What do you say? I always forget to turn it on. So this pulley's already loose, so that's not cool. And this belt is super grippy, even with the what's causing it is this clutch is now so free, it's grabbing this regardless of tension on it, and it's just not slipping great on this motor pulley. That's supposed to be free spinning, right? Might need a little lubrication on that. I can fix that too. Fixed the nut, lubricated the belt. Let's try that again. Let's turn it on. So that's it for this little conversion of putting a Subaru onto this old MTD. It's not even a 5-speed, it's a multi-speed tiller. If you got any questions, leave them. If you know anything about chain drive tillers, please leave a comment. I'd love to talk to you because I don't know what sort of maintenance the base on this thing needs. I've got a couple that are chain drive now, and I've read that they're lifetime, but I don't know. But anyway, let's get some tilling done, and I'll see you next time.